take place to protest the mandate, organize a self-defense corps, and immediately, not surprisingly, he and Chaim Weizmann were at odds. Weizmann trusted the British, Jabotinsky didn't trust the British. So you can read the rest of that there. I only have a footnote to that, as I told you last time. Netanyahu's father was Weizmann's Jabotinsky's private secretary when he died in 1940. Now let's listen to what he says to the same Palestine Royal Commission, the Appeal Commission. I think this is a good way to bring this class to a quasi-conclusion. We'll say some more, but let's look at this because it's fairly long. I have the honor to represent here, this is a totally different mindset than Weizmann. He even speaks about honor, as you see. What is based on what I should call humanitarian aspect, but I do not mean to say we do not respect the other, the spiritual aspect, the rebuilding of Hebrew culture. That's a sort of nod to who? The Ahad Ha'am. Creating a model community, that's what Ahad Ha'am was interested in. But a model community of which the Jewish people could be proud. All that, of course, is most important. 1937, this is. But as compared with our actual needs, here we go. And our real position, so see, some people could see the situation clearly. They weren't fools. And our real position, remember the movie you saw about Hungary, in the world today, all that has rather the character of luxury. Look, that's all I've been saying myself. But he just says it at the time. And he is, how do we put it, pilloried, heaped abuse upon, ostracized because of this kind of speech. And yet, he's the only one here who's seeing anything realistically. He's not, confusing himself with high spiritual ambition, which has no place in the world of 1937. Nice, it would be nice if it did. The Commission has already heard a description of the situation of world Jewry, especially in Eastern Europe, and I'm not going to repeat any details, but you will allow me to quote a recent reference in the New York Times. Heather's already still quoting the New York Times back then, describing the position of Jewry in Eastern Europe as a disaster of historic magnitude. That's already in 37. I only wish to add that it would be very naive, and although many Jews make this mistake, I disapprove of it, it would be very naive to ascribe the state of the disaster, permanent disaster, only to the guilt of men, whether crowds or whether a government. The thing goes much deeper than that. Pinsker. And in some of the things I might have said to you. And I regret, but to say these things, this is not popular with my co-religionists, but the truth is the truth, unfortunately. And here he says it. We are facing an elemental calamity, a kind of social earthquake. So he knows. Herzl knows. He knows. But the others don't know. Tell us the truth. You must tell us the truth, and I'm going to break down crying. Is this man going to break down crying? No. Totally clear-sighted. Totally different individual. 3 generations of Jewish thinkers and Zionists, among whom there are many great minds. I'm not going to fatigue you by quoting them. 3 generations have given much thought to analyzing the Jewish position, come to the conclusion that the cause of our suffering is the fact of the diaspora itself. It's not the anti-Semitism of men, things, inherent xenophobia of the body social, the xenophobia of life itself. Xenophobia means hatred of foreigners. It's the fact of the diaspora itself. And Pinsker said that. See, he came from Odessa. The Jew is like a dead man walking. People, it's like an apparition. People, that was the way he put it. Anyway, but the best of government could perhaps only soften the calamity, next paragraph. But the core of the calamity is an earthquake which stands and remains. It is an earthquake. He doesn't have any doubt about it. He knows what's going on and what may be about to happen. Some governments, the Polish government in parentheses, have tried to bring to notice to the League of Nations and the whole of humanity that it's humanity's duty to provide the Jews an area where they can build their own body social. I have to bring you a picture of what the Jewish hell looks like, but I feel I cannot do it. I hope one day that some Jewish representative may be allowed to appear at the bar of these two houses, I guess it's Parliament, just to tell them what really is, and to ask the English people, what are you going to advise us? What's our way out? Or standing up and facing God and say that there's no way out, and we must go under. But unfortunately I cannot do it, so I will simply assume the Royal Commission are sufficiently informed of this situation. Okay. So Hebrew culture, perhaps even the second edition of the Bible, all this is nice. The model community, again, that's Ahad. But all this longing for wonderful toys of velvet and silver is nothing. And Jabotinsky was a classicist. He studied Greek. He translated Greek tragedy into Hebrew. But again, he dismisses the cultural Zionists in such a situation. This is like toys of velvet and silver. This is nothing in comparison with the tangible momentum of the irresistible distress and need by which we're propelled and born. We are not free agents. We cannot concede anything. We have nothing to concede. We can't give anymore. If I were Israeli government, that's what I would say. We have nothing to concede. We've already conceded 2 countries in this mandate. We're dealing with people who have 21 countries. They want more. They want our death. We have barely enough that we can survive. So if you people suffered a little bit in the dislocations, we haven't suffered in the dislocations. Whole communities haven't been uprooted in Yemen, in Iraq, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Egypt, and so on. And there's not a Jew left in Iraq, not one, when there used to be like over 250,000. And the same, you know, and yet we still hear about the injustice of everything, you see. That's what I would say, like Jabotinsky says. Are you kidding me? Yes, there's suffering in the world, and we regret suffering. But he says we can't concede anything. We're a beggar. We have nothing to concede. We can only just barely survive. Whenever I hear the Zionists, most often my own party, accused of asking for too much, you see, there he goes. Gentlemen, I really cannot understand it. Yes, we do want a state, every nation, every normal nation, beginning with the smallest and humblest, yes, even like Ecuador, even what have they contributed to the, what has Paraguay contributed to the world lately? Maybe Mozambique should have a state, and Madagascar, yeah, sure they should, and who's to stop them? But every of the